हेलो एवरीवन एंड वेलकम टू दिस वीडियो जहां पे हम डिस्कस करेंगे स्ट्रेंथ्स एंड वीकनेसेस व्हेन इट कम्स टू एमबीए इंटरव्यूज। बहुत ज्यादा कॉमन क्वेश्चन है जहां पे द पैनलिस्ट और विल योर एसओपी फॉर्म विल आस्क यू टू मेंशन थ्री ऑफ योर स्ट्रेंथ्स एंड थ्री ऑफ योर एरियाज ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट और योर वीकनेसेस। नाउ दिस इज अ वेरी डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चन टू आंसर प्योरली बिकॉज इट इज पर्टिनेंट टू यू। अगर मैं कोई क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ रिगार्डिंग some current affairs or your opinion on something, then maybe it's a different thing because वहां पे क्या होता है ना, you may or may not know the entirety of the case, but your strengths, your weaknesses, you are the best person who knows what things are all about. The only problem here is that we are inherently people pleasers. तो हमें ना अपने weaknesses के बारे में लोगों से डिस्कस करना, स्पेशली वो लोग जो हमारे लिए थोड़े से एलियंस है, राइट? वी डोंट रियली नो व्हाट दिस पीपल थिंक ऑफ अस, हाउ विल दे जज अस। एक इंपॉर्टेंट इंटरव्यू कॉल हमारे हाथ में है, आई डोंट वांट टू जेपरडाइज माय चांसेस। तो ये सब सोच के हम अपने वीकनेसेस बहुत अच्छे से नहीं बताते, स्ट्रेंथ्स को बहुत ज्यादा ग्लोरीफाई करते हैं एंड इनहेरेंटली वी एंड अप मेकिंग अ मेस ऑफ इट। सो हाउ टू अवॉइड मेकिंग अ मेस ऑफ इट? क्या क्या स्ट्रेंथ्स बोल सकते हो ड्यूरिंग द इंटरव्यू, क्या क्या वीकनेसेस बोल सकते हो ड्यूरिंग द इंटरव्यू, व्हाट आर द थिंग्स टू अवॉइड, व्हाट आर द थिंग्स टू से, all these things will be discussed in this particular video. Now before we start, just understand this one thing and stay away from this kind of a thought process. So there is a very popular saying from Fight Club. We buy things we don't need with the money we don't have to impress the people we don't like. तो उसी के parallels यहाँ पे भी हैं. We inherently tend to try to impress the panelists, and in that particular attempt we fall flat on our faces. तो वो नहीं करना है. So I'll show you a few comics from popular sources, and you will more or less realize what counts as a good thing and a bad thing. So the first thing, right? What to not do? क्या नहीं करना है? तो यहाँ पे you are basically saying that you need not lie about anything that you have on your CV or on your statement of purpose. Don't really look at the source of this particular cartoon. It's a funny play on words. The second thing, again, you should not be too honest as well. If you are too honest and you try talking about things that you may or may not believe are character traits, you might end up in some trouble. So make sure that your answers are pertinent to what an MBA entails, right? So MBA के अंदर क्या चीजें हैं, क्या एट्रीब्यूट्स है जो हमें चाहिए, और उसके अगेंस्ट क्यों मतलब हम वो नहीं कर पा रहे जो हमें करना है. दैट इज बेसिकली व्हाट स्ट्रेंथ्स एंड वीकनेसेस आर. This is an MBA interview. It is not a life interview. जहाँ पे you start saying that I need to wake up early in the morning, I need to have a fitness regime, I need to work on my muscles, I need to do something, I need to walk 10,000 steps every day. तो ये सारी चीजें एरियाज ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट हो सकती हैं, बट इसका एमबीए के साथ क्या लेना देना है? That is something that you have to understand. You need not be too honest as well. And the third thing, don't ramble, don't be vague. मैं आगे जाके फिर से कवर करूंगा, बट बहुत ज्यादा घुमा घुमा के अगर आंसर दोगे देन पीपल माइट नॉट रियली अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. सो डोंट कंफ्यूज द पैनलिस्ट्स. That is the golden rule that we have here. Now, what are the things that you need to avoid in this particular context? So there are 5 things I'll talk about that you need to avoid. The first thing is rattling off a list. So किसी ने पूछा कि strengths क्या है? You are basically saying honesty, analytical thinking, and you are saying, let's say, time management. तो ये 3 मेरे स्ट्रेंथ्स है बोल के मैंने छोड़ दिया वहां पे, एंड देन आई एम नॉट इलेबोरेटिंग on any of those at all. The panelists are staring at me and I don't know what to do. So ये मत होने देना. You can maybe talk about some instances when you are talking about a particular strength. So you can say that your experience as the head of the cultural committee at your institute has taught you the importance of time management, and because you have been on the job for the last 6 months, you have realized that you are good in terms of time management skills. Strength number 2 फिर शुरू करना, and that is basically how you can talk about it instead of just saying 1 2 3 end of the story. इतना जल्दी इसको खत्म नहीं करना है. At least add one line or say that I remember one instance from this particular point in time जहां पे मुझे ये चीज पता चली. And that makes a big difference because then the panelists will have something that they will be able to ask you. तो ऐसे अगर मैंने 3 चीज बोल के छोड़ दिया ना, तो then they will ask you anything. उसके बाद का क्वेश्चन कुछ भी आ सकता है. So don't just give them an opportunity to ask anything that is at the top of their mind. उनको ना बहुत अच्छे से subtly feed करना what is it that you would want them to ask you. तो एक लिस्ट में पूरा आंसर नहीं देना है. Second, being vague or circuitous. घुमा घुमा के एक स्ट्रेंथ मैंने बोला, मुझे पूछे थे तीन स्ट्रेंथ बताओ, एंड देन यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वन स्ट्रेंथ एंड यू गो ऑन एंड ऑन एंड ऑन एंड ऑन, एंड देन यू डोंट रियली हैव टाइम टू फोकस ऑन द सेकंड स्ट्रेंथ एट ऑल. द पैनलिस्ट वर एक्सपेक्टिंग थ्री स्ट्रेंथ्स फॉर यू, आपने दिया है एक स्ट्रेंथ, डजंट मेक अ लॉट ऑफ सेंस. एरियाज ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट, अगेन यू जस्ट टॉक अबाउट वन एरिया ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट दैट यू आर thoroughly prepared, एंड उसके बाद के सेकंड और थर्ड मेरे पास है ही नहीं. डोंट लेट दैट हैपन. मेक श्योर दैट अगर तीन पूछे तो तीन बताओ. जस्ट गिव देम समथिंग दैट दे विल बी एबल टू आस्क यू, वो उनको बता देना. मतलब एक इंस्टेंस बता दो, या बता दो कि कहां पे यू स्टार्टेड अप्रिशिएटिंग इट. यू माइट हैव रियलाइज्ड इट ड्यूरिंग योर चाइल्डहुड दैट यू आर एन एनालिटिकल थिंकर, बट कब पता चला दैट यू आर इंडीड एन एनालिटिकल थिंकर, स्पेशली इन द जॉब कॉन्टेक्स्ट, तो वो उनको बताना है. थर्ड थिंग, कंस्ट्रक्टिंग एमबीए स्ट्रेंथ्स. अभी मैंने इसके पहले बोला दैट यू आर सपोज टू अलाइन योर स्ट्रेंथ्स टू योर बिजनेस मैनेजमेंट प्रोग्राम दैट यू आर गोइंग फॉर, बट देन कंस्ट्रक्टिंग एमबीए स्ट्रेंथ की, अच्छा ये स्ट्रेंथ बोलने से ना मुझे ज्यादा अच्छा चांस मिलेगा टू टू गेट इनटू दैट बी स्कूल, राइट. डोंट मेक इट दैट ट्रांजैक्शनल एज वेल. इट इज समथिंग दैट शुड बी रिलेटेड टू वर्क, इट इज समथिंग दैट शुड बी रिलेटेड टू बिजनेस मैनेजमेंट, it should be related to something that will enable you to become an entrepreneur or something on those lines, right. तो वो होना चाहिए, बट कंस्ट्रक्ट मत करना कि अच्छा एमबीए के अंदर मैंने सुना है दैट देयर आर ग्रुप प्रेजेंटेशन, सो आई विल से दैट आई एम अ टीम प्लेयर. डजंट रियली वर्क दैट वे, ठीक है. तो ऐसे इसको मॉडल करने की कोशिश मत करना दैट यू आर गोइंग टू से समथिंग दैट विल मेक देम हैप्पी. Doesn't make any sense. Masking strengths as weaknesses, this is the worst thing that people can do. Weaknesses पूछे कि मतलब what do you think is your biggest weakness? I work too hard, I pay too much attention to detail, I am too driven to achieve success in my life, I am too ambitious. सो कोई भी वर्ड के सामने टू डाल दिया तो वो वीकनेस बन जाता है. दैट इज नॉट रियली अ गुड थिंग. इट शुड बी समथिंग दैट इज अ कैरेक्टर फ्लॉ. सी नोबडी विल हैव entirely 100% good characters, right? Because there is nothing as a good character or a bad character. सब लोग are various shades of gray that exist, but you have to understand which is the thing that you intend to work on in your coming 6 months or 1 year or 2 years. So क्या करना है exactly that will help you grow as an individual. So you will never stop growing. तो क्या तुमको grow करने में फायदा देगा, that is basically what you're talking about in terms of areas of improvement. Don't mask a strength as a weakness. And then contradicting yourself. एक जगह पे मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि I tend to focus on individual projects more than team projects, and second जगह पे मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि managing a team is my strength. Doesn't make any sense. You can't say that I am very good in terms of time management and second line में बोल दो कि नहीं prioritize करना is my weakness. So can't really contradict yourself. तो ये सारी चीजें avoid करनी है. What are the things that you should be doing? द फर्स्ट थिंग, बी प्रिपेयर विद एग्जाम्पल्स. जैसे मैंने पहले भी बताया, एवरी स्ट्रेंथ और एरिया ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट नीड्स टू हैव एन एग्जाम्पल दैट इज एसोसिएटेड विद दैट. अगर मल्टीपल एग्जाम्पल्स होंगे इवन बेटर, बट दो एग्जाम्पल्स तैयार करके रखना. इफ यू प्रिपेयर टू एग्जाम्पल्स यू विल बी एबल टू रिकलेक्ट एंड डिलीवर वन एग्जाम्पल ड्यूरिंग द इंटरव्यू. सिमिलरली पांच स्ट्रेंथ्स और पांच वीकनेसेस रेडी करके रखना. इफ यू रिमेंबर 5 देन यू विल बी एबल टू डिलीवर 3 ऑफ देम ड्यूरिंग द इंटरव्यू. अगर तीन प्रिपेयर करोगे तो तीन के तीन डिलीवर नहीं होंगे. यू विल कीप ऑन wondering what was the third strength, what was the third area of improvement I was talking about. तो पांच पांच प्रिपेयर करके जा. बी कंसाइज. जैसे मैंने पहले ही बताया, एक लाइन के अंदर बता दो कि ओके दिस इज माय स्ट्रेंथ एंड आई अप्रिशिएटेड दिस स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ माइंड ड्यूरिंग दिस स्टिंट. छोड़ दो सेकंड स्ट्रेंथ ये बताओ, देन थर्ड स्ट्रेंथ ये बताओ, एंड देन दे विल डेफिनेटली पिक अप ऑन सम क्यूज दैट यू वुड हैव लेफ्ट बिहाइंड. सो बी कंसाइज एंड टेल देम द थ्री स्ट्रेंथ्स और वीकनेसेस दैट दे आर लुकिंग फॉर. प्लान टू ओवरकम वीकनेसेस. सिर्फ एक वीकनेस बता दिया और फिर छोड़ दिया, ऐसे मत करना. just say that there are some steps that you are taking actively to overcome this particular weakness, but this is a work in progress. You need to do a more, or you need to be more mindful when you are dealing with this particular weakness. So वैसे करके हम इसको overcome करेंगे. So just make sure that the overall tone is slightly positive. Don't camouflage a strength as a weakness, but weakness जब भी बताओगे ना तो ये भी बता देना कि कैसे overcome करने का plan मैंने बनाया हुआ है. what have you done till now. तो प्लान तो बना दिया मैंने. I know that, let's say for example, I know that presentation skills are something that I lack. मैं अच्छे पीपीटी शायद नहीं बना सकता मे बी. Then what have I done about it? Have I done a course? Have I done mock presentations? Have I made sure that I just take a topic on my own and I try to build a PPT around it? क्या किया है मैंने उसके बारे में at this point in time, and what is my plan going forward? तो ये दोनों चीजें होनी चाहिए especially when it comes to areas of improvement. Now in terms of strengths, I have listed 20 strengths, and आगे वीडियो में I have also listed 20 areas of improvement or weaknesses. सो मेक श्योर दैट यू लुक एट दिस पर्टिकुलर लिस्ट. आई एम नॉट सेइंग इसमें से बोरो करना या यही कॉपी करके डाल देना अपने एसओपी के अंदर, बट दिस इज एन इंडिकेटिव लिस्ट ऑफ स्ट्रेंथ्स. तो ऐसे स्ट्रेंथ्स अगर कुछ ढूंढ पाओ, उसके बारे में अगर कुछ स्टोरीज लिख पाओ, देन यू कैन कंसिडर देम एज योर स्ट्रेंथ्स. एंड सिमिलरली वीकनेसेस जो दिए हैं वो भी कंसीडर कर सकते हैं. सो आई जस्ट रन यू थ्रू दिस पर्टिकुलर लिस्ट दैट वी हैव. स्ट्रेटेजिक थिंकिंग. सो कहीं पे देयर इज अ वेरी कॉम्प्लेक्स प्रॉब्लम दैट इज इन्वॉल्व, इसमें बहुत सारे मूविंग पार्ट्स हैं. कैसे मैंने स्ट्रेटेजिक थिंकिंग करके सब चीजों को अलाइन किया एंड देन आई वेंट अबाउट डिलीवरिंग ऑन माई प्रॉमिस, दैट इज स्ट्रेटेजिक थिंकिंग. लीडरशिप स्किल्स. कहीं पे मतलब देयर वेर अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु वेर लुकिंग अप टू यू फॉर एडवाइस, एंड कैसे मतलब यू मेड श्योर दैट एवरीबडी न्यू व्हाट देयर रोल वाज इन अ पर्टिकुलर एक्टिविटी, इवेंट, इट कुड बी अ प्रोजेक्ट, एनीथिंग. बट कैसे मैंने सब लोगों को बताया कि आपको ये करना है, ये करना है, ये करना है, एंड क्यूमुलेटिवली द पिक्चर वाज समथिंग दैट you were supposed to do in the first place. Problem solving ability. Again, there might be some problem that a client would be facing, an organization would be facing, a committee would be facing. कुछ भी हो सकता है, right? It could be a local initiative that you are driving. बट वहां पे एक प्रॉब्लम हुआ, उसको सॉल्व कैसे किया, एंड फ्रॉम देयर यू रियलाइज दैट यू हैव अ गुड प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग एबिलिटी. Analytical thinking, again similar to strategic thinking. Analytical thinking will mostly mean use of data, let's say for example, and trying to come up to conclusions by using data in general. Communication skills could be a strength. You find it very easy to go and talk about things that you are passionate about, one, and you are able to impress upon people the need to do a particular thing. तो वो बन जाता है तुम्हारा communication skills. Again, it's an asset to have. If you are a good communicator, definitely you should talk about it. Adaptability and flexibility. So there are people जिनको कोई भी अलग अलग चीजों में डाल दो, they will be adaptable to those various habitats, so to say, right? I'm not talking literally about habitats and ecosystems. I'm talking about various roles that are there, various teams that are there, various organizations that might be there, various projects that might be there. तो ये सारे adaptability के examples होते हैं, flexibility के examples होते हैं. In my case, I used to focus a lot on this because I had exposure to a diverse set of scenarios. I had been a part of a hospital setup. I had been a part of a startup. I had worked as someone who provided or who delivered medicine, right, or clinical services. I also worked as someone who was an editor at a website. I used to manage a community that was there. College के अंदर जाके I was a part of the placement committee. I have stayed or worked in a city. I have worked in a rural area. तो ये सारी चीजें थी which basically told them that I am an adaptable individual. तो आगे जाके भी जो भी challenges आएंगे, I think based on these precedents that I have, I will be able to handle fresh responsibilities with a lot of gusto as well. तो ये था adaptability. Team collaboration, teamwork. If you have ever worked in a team, you might not have led the team, but because you worked in a team and facilitated the overall outcome, you can say that team collaboration एक चीज हो सकती है. Emotional intelligence. A lot of people are ones who tend to attract people जो उनके साथ मे बी अपना, I don't want to put it that way, but दुख दर्द शेयर कर सकते हैं. So that is basically emotional intelligence. You are aware of what people are thinking, how people will behave, empathy, sympathy, ये सारी चीजें तुम्हारे अंदर inbuilt हैं, and that is basically emotional intelligence. If you have found yourself as a friend who is more or less prone to getting that 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. call from someone who is in distress, chances are high that you have emotional intelligence. तो ये बताने की जरूरत नहीं है इंटरव्यू के अंदर, but just let them know that you are someone who has a humane angle to things as well. The next thing is resilience and perseverance. कहीं पे अगर challenges face किए हैं, you have had a very tough upbringing, you were transferred from one school to the other, तो ये सारी चीजें अगर हुई है, adaptability भी हो सकता है, resilience and perseverance भी हो सकता है. In the face of defeat, if you manage to do something, achieve something, that is basically resilience and perseverance. Creativity and innovation. If you are someone who has maybe a YouTube channel, let's say you are into performing arts, I know someone who was a part of the Indian Whistlers Association, वो हो सकता है. You have done something, you hold a patent, you have done a project, कुछ भी, you are an entrepreneur, कुछ भी हो सकता है. If you are a creative individual, then that can definitely be considered as a strength. Decisiveness under pressure, again in terms of tough decisions that you would have made or tough situations that you might have faced, कैसे you were decisive under pressure, that is a strength. टाइम मैनेजमेंट. इफ यू आर समवन हु हैज अ टू डू लिस्ट एंड बैठ के बराबर यू आर knocking off items one after the other from that list, it tells me that you are someone who is a sorted individual who is good at time management. So considering that you have limited resources, how exactly do you plan to use those resources? तो वो होता है टाइम मैनेजमेंट यहाँ. Networking. Again, a lot of people find it very easy to talk to strangers. Let's say, for example, network with people, and again, make sure that they're connected in some capacity or the other. तो ये होता है networking. A lot of people go to a B school to network with others. कितने लोग कर पाते हैं नहीं कर पाते is a different story. But networking is what I'm talking about. If you are good at those things, definitely you should mention it as a strength. Initiative and proactiveness. In a lot of situations, ऐसे कभी कभी होता है that you will not be told what needs to be done in a particular role. You are expected to come up with work that you would be doing on your own. So you have to build your own projects, deliver on your own promises, and even figure out whether you have lived up to a promise or not. So initiative, proactiveness is again a strength that some people have. तो अगर है तो definitely इसको बता दें. 15th strength is cross cultural understanding. If you have had access to a lot of different geographies, you have worked in a different country, let's say for example, or you have had an upbringing across the various geographical regions of the country, ऐसा कुछ अगर है तो definitely cross cultural understanding could be mentioned as a strength. Integrity. अगर कहीं पे कुछ moral conflict हुआ था and वहां पे you took a stand and ensured that the right outcome was achieved, then that's basically integrity that you have. This is a very tricky strength to navigate because कहीं पे भी हो सकता है that हम लोग morals, ethics, integrity को बहुत ज्यादा value करते हैं. So of course the examples also have to be rock solid. You can't say that your organization was behaving in an unethical manner and you were the one who who had integrity. So तुम्हारे organization को negative light में नहीं दिखाना है. That is what I'm talking about in terms of integrity. Very tricky strength to handle, but अगर कर सकते हो then nothing like. Ability to lead change. So कुछ एक transition हुआ होगा. So I worked on a project wherein what happened was we had to rationalize costs. We had to shut down some non-performing units. We had to sort of ensure that some people were let go. It's never a happy conversation, but that was something that needed to happen for the benefit of the organization that I was a part of. And the ability to lead change, right? So to have those difficult conversations, that is something that you need to have. अगर है ऐसा कुछ अगर एग्जांपल शेयर कर सकते हो that will be great. It's a very painful process, so ability to lead change is something that you can talk about as a strength. Financial acumen. If you are someone who is really wise for your age, you are into investing, you are into building wealth, you have realized the importance of creating wealth, let's say, not generational wealth, but creating wealth so that you are able to sustain your retirement. If you have some very strong concept of personal finance, you can talk about financial acumen. Even in terms of business, agar kuch hai, definitely talk about financial acumen as a strength. Conflict resolution. Again, this is very similar to handling a team or emotional intelligence. तो ये सारी चीजें आती है conflict resolution में भी. So it could be any instance that is there wherein you have two warring factions in front of you. How exactly do you jump in the middle and make sure that peace is restored? That is conflict resolution. And attention to detail. A lot of people put a lot of attention to detail. उनके presentations में शायद spelling mistakes नहीं होंगी. All animations will be in place. They will ensure that all the numbers are there on the slide. Annexes लिखे होंगे. They write down everything that is there. Their folders are all very properly organized. So if you are very well organized or if you provide attention to detail, that is basically something you can list as a strength. Then in terms of weaknesses, this is a tough conversation that you are going to have with the interviewers. तो क्या क्या weaknesses हम यहाँ पे लिख सकते हैं? Public speaking or lack of public speaking per se. So if you find it very difficult to go on stage and talk in front of maybe 500 people, 800 people, 1,000 people, then that counts as something that you can work on. Because आगे जाके if you are leading an organization, you might have to go and talk to the employees in a public setup, and that is something that you can improve on. It might be because you have not had a lot of exposure to public speaking. इसके लिए you are a bit scared of it. You might have had a nasty experience in your childhood because of which you are slightly scared of speaking in public, जो भी है. But you have active plans to improve these things. Maybe you have started talking to a group of 5 people or 10 people, and वहां से धीरे 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 you will scale it up over the next year, year and a half or so. जहाँ पे you will also be presenting to your बैचमेट्स और टू योर जूनियर्स व्हेन दे कम इनटू द कैंपस, तो ये सारी चीजें विल हेल्प यू बिकम अ गुड पब्लिक स्पीकर. Overthinking decisions. A lot of people write an email and they find it very difficult to hit the send button. उनको लगता है कि अरे यहाँ पे थोड़ा और एक्सप्लेन करना चाहिए, ये शायद ग्रामेटिकली इनकरेक्ट है, यहाँ पे और कुछ अलग लिख सकते हैं. तो हर एक चीज को ना बहुत ज्यादा ओवर थिंक करते हैं. I also have this habit, honestly, not of sending mails, but when I'm doing research for anything, I'll get into the depth of it, and इतना ज़्यादा मतलब I'll think about things that वो थोड़ा analysis paralysis हो जाता है. So let's say, for example, if I were to buy a mobile phone, it's not a decision that I will make in one day. It's going to be weeks of research, making presentations for myself or writing it down on a sheet कि क्या पैरामीटर्स होने चाहिए, कौन से पैरामीटर्स को मैं कितने मार्क्स दूंगा, व्हाट इज द बेस्ट टाइम टू बाय इट, व्हेन इज द बेस्ट डिस्काउंट अवेलेबल, व्हाट आर द स्पेसिफिकेशंस दैट आई एम लुकिंग एट. सारी चीजें वहां पे लिखी जाएंगी एंड आफ्टर दैट ओनली दैट विल आई बी एबल टू मेक अ डिसीजन. Delegating tasks or the inability to delegate tasks can be a weakness. बहुत बार ऐसे होता है that you will be like यार मैं किसी को सिखाऊं एंड वो काम करे, उससे बेटर है कि मैं खुद ही कर लूं, जल्दी भी होगा एंड बेटर भी होगा. That is something that people tend to do. But a lot of people also believe in delegating tasks. So as many entrepreneurs have mentioned it, it's like driving your own car. It's not as if you will not be able to drive your own car, right? You might actually be very good at it, but you might be able to use that time doing something that you are actually better at than most of the population. वो मुझे करना है. And that 1 hour, 2 hours that you spend plying yourself or driving, that can be used for more productive purposes. That's why that is something wherein you realize that you are not very good at delegating tasks, or you should be delegating tasks in the first place. Overcommitting. A lot of people say yes to a lot of things. The inability to say no, जैसे बोलते हैं. And there's a very nice book about it, by the way, in case someone wants to read upon this. It's called No More Mr. Nice Guy. तो एक चाहिए तो ये बुक पढ़ लेना. इट्स आई थिंक इट्स नॉट अ वेरी लॉन्ग बुक, इट्स अ शॉर्ट बुक दैट यू विल बी एबल टू रीड वेरी क्विकली. बट यहाँ पे मतलब ओवर कमिटमेंट, इनएबिलिटी टू से नो, इसके बारे में काफी ज्यादा डिटेल में दिया हुआ. वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस. अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल जो बोलते हैं ना आई एम अ वर्कोहलिक, सो वर्कोहलिक बोलने से बेटर है यू कैन से दैट आई डोंट रियली, आई एम नॉट पेइंग अ लॉट ऑफ अटेंशन टू वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम. आई एम एबल टू पुल इट ऑफ बिकॉज ऑफ माई एज, बिकॉज आई एम यंग, राइट. तो वो ब्लिस ऑफ यूथ लोगों का होता है, बट एज यू ग्रो ओल्डर इट इज नॉट सस्टेनेबल इज वॉट यू हैव रियलाइज. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट यू वॉन्ट टू keep that one day of the week or 2 days of the week to yourself so that you have good work life balance. This is going to be a big topic this year with all the 70 hours, 90 hours, don't stare at your wife kind of comments that have been going around. So if you have heard any of these comments and if you are able to place it, do let me know in the comment section below. I will know that you are in this video till this point in time. So work life balance काफी important है. I am sure the B school panelists, professors will be able to appreciate your take on that. So make sure that you have a take on work life balance. It can also be a weakness wherein you are saying that okay, I don't pay a lot of attention to myself or my hobbies or my interests or my family, जो भी चीजें, but I need to work actively in that particular direction. Impatience, expecting results too soon, pulling the plug very quickly, ये सारी चीजें are again attributes that speak of impatience. And at this point in time, I think impatience is something that is plaguing the entire world with 30-second reels and shorts and all these things that are happening. लोगों का पेशेंस थोड़ा कम हो गया है, and I'm sure many of you realize this as well. I think it was a struggle for you to reach till this point in time in this video. So that is basically impatience. If you are someone who gets slightly impatient, you can talk about it and you can say that no, I'm doing something, I'm trying to be mindful, I'm trying to be more active in terms of doing things. Self-critical. There are people who will not talk positively about themselves at all. So let's say for example you had a presentation and you delivered a presentation and उसके बाद I asked you how was the presentation. You will say that यार वहां पे ना एक जगह पे मैंने फंबल किया जहां पे मुझे फंबल नहीं करना चाहिए था. 95% of your presentation was fine. 5% of the presentation you fumbled a bit. Doesn't mean that you focus on that 5%. So बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं जो काफी सेल्फ क्रिटिकल होते हैं. They start blaming themselves for everything बहुत ही ज्यादा, and that creates a lack of how do I put it, self confidence, so to say. काफी ज्यादा वो इम्पोस्टर सिंड्रोम वाला चीज आ जाता है जहां पे यू आर नॉट श्योर इफ यू आर एक्चुअली डूइंग अ गुड जॉब एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट यू आर एट अ पर्टिकुलर प्लेस. Yeah, you are there purely because of dumb luck. So self-critical behavior can be a weakness. You can talk about it in an interview. Hesitation to take risks. Again, not a lot of people might want to talk about it, but kahin pe, if you want to, if you have undergone some situation jahan pe you didn't take that particular risk, maybe it paid off, maybe it did not pay off as handsomely as you would have thought it would. जो भी है, but hesitation to take risks could be something that you can talk about. So यहाँ पे ना there is a very interesting thing that exists, right? If I recollect correctly, the human brain has a part called the amygdala, and amygdala basically defines how much risk can you take in life. So there are some people who will take a lot of risks. So let's say, for example, when I sit for a particular test, I will go all out and mark everything and come back. And even if I am a serious aspirant, I would have done the exact same thing. ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं आज मेरे पास खोने के लिए कुछ नहीं है तो मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ, ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. I did the same thing even when I was an aspirant myself. So I have very less hesitation when it comes to risk taking. Maybe the reason why I'm sitting in front of you on this very channel, when I could have easily done a job and could have ensured that I got a certain amount of money every month into my account. That is risk taking behavior. कुछ लोग होते हैं जिनको मतलब काफी हेजिटेशन होता है in terms of taking risks. So maybe if you strongly associate with that, you will be able to talk about this weakness or area of improvement as well. टेक्निकल स्किल्स, काफी लोगों में ना टेक्निकल स्किल्स नहीं होते, मतलब कोडिंग शायद, you feel very badly that you should know how to code. So I honestly feel very bad about not knowing how to code. And a lot of people have mentioned it to me that I have it in me to become a good coder, but I have somehow not been able to uh, tell myself कि नहीं ये एक प्रोजेक्ट है जो मुझे करना है, a self improvement project that I have to do over the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year or so on. So that is something that I severely lack. I think I can do a much better job doing that. And this is something that is important in today's day and age. So if you associate with this, definitely you should talk about this. You can say that I'm doing some things, I'm planning, or I am doing this particular thing, wherein every 3 months I intend to do or work on a personal project and try to learn something. It could be learning a language, building a छोटा सा algorithm, जो भी करना है कर लो. But you are actively trying to do something about it. I am not trying to do something about it, which is a sad part, but I should. So that is a technical skill that I would be lacking. So ये एक चीज है जो शायद मैं इंटरव्यू में बोलता अपने कॉन्टेक्स्ट में. Set boundaries. So I don't know where to set boundaries. The same thing that I mentioned earlier. No more Mr. Nice Guy. So delegating tasks, overcommitting, work-life balance, setting boundaries, all these things are essentially, they come from the same, they say they come from the same place rather, right? So ये एक समझ लेना. If you find it difficult to set boundaries, you will be overworked and it is not a sustainable thing. Avoiding confrontation. You don't like saying no to people. मुझे हर कॉन्टेक्स्ट के अंदर कॉन्फ्रंटेशन अवॉइड करना है. आई विल बी वेरी नाइस टू पीपल. आई कीप बॉटलिंग अप माई इमोशंस. One fine day it will come out of you and then it is going to be a very bad thing. So avoiding confrontation is something that is a weakness. You should ideally, I'm not saying that start fighting with people at every instance, but at least make sure that you get it out of your system in a nice manner, but you get it out of your system. Very important. So avoiding confrontation will be a weakness. Constructive feedback. I can't give constructive feedback. I find it very difficult to give constructive feedback. I am generally overtly critical when it comes to giving feedback. Now, I don't face this as a weakness. I find it very easy to not sugarcoat things, but tell it in a manner so that the other person can derive benefit from it. Right? So, उस तरीके से मैं बोल सकता हूँ. But there are some people who are inherently blunt. They like being direct and they come to the point very quickly, because of which the feedback that they give may not be construed as constructive. तो ये एक चीज है जो improve कर सकते हैं. माइक्रो मैनेजिंग, गेटिंग इनटू द डेप्थ ऑफ थिंग्स. इतना ज्यादा मैं घुस जाता हूँ ना चीजों के अंदर दैट यू विल नॉट बी एबल टू डिलीवर प्रोजेक्ट्स ऑन टाइम. सो अगेन दैट इज समथिंग दैट कैन बी अ वीकनेस, जिसको थोड़ा डेलीगेट करके, लुकिंग एट द बिगर पिक्चर, लुकिंग एट द डिफिकल्ट टास्क फर्स्ट, ये सब चीजें करके माइक्रो मैनेजमेंट अवॉइड कर सकते हैं. Struggles with networking. You go to an event, but you don't really have a lot of business cards to show for it. You don't really talk to a lot of people that are present at that particular meeting. ये सब चीजें struggling with networking है. But of course, you have to put yourself into the mix. Only then will you be able to network in a better. Lone wolf. सारी चीजें मैं अकेला करूंगा, मैं किसी के साथ कोलैबोरेट नहीं करूंगा. आई विल बी अ वेरी स्ट्रांग इंडिविजुअल, अ वेरी स्ट्रांग इंडिविजुअल परफॉर्मर. But if I were to sort of work in a team, I don't think that's going to end well. That is the lone wolf complex that exists. तो ये भी एक weakness हो सकता है. Prioritizing. I don't know which tasks to do first, which tasks to do last. मैं सबसे easy tasks पहले कर देता हूँ and then last में I tend to do the more difficult tasks. Might not really be the best way to go about things. So make sure that if you are talking about prioritizing, have some examples ready जहाँ पे maybe you did not work on the important things earlier and बाद में काफी ज्यादा pressure बढ़ गया. You delivered the project but you had to sort of put in a lot of effort towards the end. तो ये नहीं करना है. स्लो टू अडेप्ट. अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर वेरी रिजिड. कुछ नई चीज आ गई तो अडेप्ट करने में ना बहुत ज्यादा उनको टाइम लगता है. सो मे बी इफ यू हैव हैड अ वेरी प्रोटेक्टेड चाइल्डहुड, यू हैव बीन एट वन प्लेस थ्रू आउट एंड सडनली तुमको अपने कंफर्ट जोन से बाहर निकाला जाता है, देन हाउ आर यू गोइंग टू रिएक्ट टू थिंग्स. तो स्लो टू अडेप्ट अगर हो या फिर यू हैव नॉट बीन टेस्टेड इन टर्म्स ऑफ योर अडेप्टेबिलिटी, दैट इज समथिंग दैट यू कैन टॉक अबाउट ड्यूरिंग एन इंटरव्यू. लिमिटेड एक्सपोजर अगेन यहां से ही आता है. बट इफ आई हैव हैड लिमिटेड एक्सपोजर टू things which are out of my comfort zone, then that is something that you can mention as a weakness. You want to explore a lot more things, you want to get exposure to a lot of different things, and that is something that you think will add to yourself as an individual. Long term versus immediate execution. So there are people who believe in having long term execution strategies, और या फिर उसको execute करने में काफी time लगा देंगे. Immediate execution are the ones that सोचेंगे and कर लेंगे. Now this is basically where your personality types come into the picture. So broadly there are 16 personality types that exist. It's basically called, there are a lot of things that exist, but MBTI करके there is a thing, Myers-Briggs type indicators. And there are 16 personalities into which people are generally classified. And अगर वो वाला एक टेस्ट कर लोगे, I know there are not a lot of accurate calculators or the tests that will tell you what personality you are, but एक बार करके देख लेना. Let's see if you are able to, or you can see if you are able to get some strengths and areas of improvement and your personality typed. तो ये एक बार करके देख सकते हो. यहाँ पे you will realize how good you are in terms of strategy or tactics. So I for one am very good in terms of tactical things that I need to do. So अगर मुझे बताया जाए कि 2 महीने में ये करना है, 1 महीने में ये करना है, end of the day तक ये हो जाना चाहिए, 3 months में this is my plan, I will be very good at those things. But if I were to plan a vacation 1 year away from now, मेरे से नहीं होगा, right? It's very difficult for me to do those things. I really wish that I get better at these things as well. बट लॉन्ग टर्म एग्जीक्यूशन के अंदर आई फाइंड इट वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू डिलीवर. राइट, शॉर्ट टर्म इमीडिएट एग्जीक्यूशन में आई एम द गाय. राइट, आई नो दैट दिस इज बेसिकली हाउ यू विल बी एबल टू डू थिंग्स. तो सर्वाइवल के लिए एज आई जोकिंगली टेल टू माय फ्रेंड्स एंड रिलेटिव्स, in case of a zombie apocalypse, I would be the best person, I would be the one who will be able to survive, is something that I firmly believe in. But that is basically your immediate execution. जल्दी जल्दी जो decision making होता है, that I'm good at. But long term execution में I find it to be a big challenge. And सबसे last weakness, presentability या first impressions. I used to talk about it during my interviews. I know that it can be construed as a frivolous weakness or an area of improvement, but my handwriting is not great, and it creates a first impression. And it's one of those non-verbal cues that people will observe and notice about you, and they will form an opinion about you. तो अगर मेरा handwriting अच्छा नहीं है, I don't think people will like me a lot, and I need to make sure that I'm working on these things as well. So this used to be my actual weakness when I used to tackle my interviews, and I have converted quite a many of them. So I think you can be sure that this can be construed as a weakness, right? और मैं क्या बोल रहा था, the good thing about this is I have a very good plan of working on this particular aspect. I can have a double ruled or a four rule वाला पेपर जो बचपन में लोग यूज करते थे, to align the A's and the B's, and T ऊपर होना चाहिए, Y नीचे होना चाहिए. So all those things that were there, you could work on those things by using those single ruled or double ruled papers that you used to get. And that is basically what I used to talk about during my interviews as well. So have your 5 strengths, 5 weaknesses ready. इसके आगे भी बहुत बड़ी list है. These were just indicative strengths and weaknesses that people commonly talk about during their interviews, and you can get inspired from this list that we have here. The video went on for a bit longer than what I'd expected, but I hope this was beneficial to you. If you have any doubts, any queries, anything you would like to share from this particular list, do let me know in the comment section below. And I'll try to reply to your query in case there is something that I can help you with. And do let me know if you are liking this series, and if there's something in particular that you would like to hear from me going forward. Wish you all the best for your upcoming interviews. And if you like the video, do leave a like, do share it with all your friends whom you think will benefit from this particular video, and do stay subscribed to the channel. I'll see you again in the next video. Till then, keep preparing.